Now, in this video, we will try to solve the same problem, that is printing the equivalent letter grade for a student percentage score by using three different strategies. That is, first, we will try to solve it using the compound if-else statement, where I will combine two different conditions for this between, and we will solve the same problem using the elif statement, and then we will solve the same problem using a nested if else. So let's take one score. Let me initialize it to anything, like let's say 84 or something. And now first, what I want to do is I want to solve it using the combined if else statement. So what you can do is, if the first condition is okay, so score is greater than 90, then you can print A like this. So that is my first part of the problem. All right, so this will take care of the first part of the problem, that is score greater than 90, then I will print A. Now the second part, let us try to solve it using the compound if else, or combining two different conditions together. So it should look like this, like let's say if score is less than 90, less than or equals 90, and the score is greater than 80. In that case, I want to print, like print B like this. And well, here I have to give a colon just for the syntax. And finally, the third part, that is score is less than equals 80. So that is if the score is less than or equals 80, in that case I want to print C. So this is the same solution that we have wrote in the previous video also. So by combining two different conditions to express this between. So let's see whether it works properly or not. And let's say instead of 84, let me show you all the different test cases. So let's say first I'm starting with 100, and if I just run this program, it is supposed to print A because 100 is greater than 90. Now let's check with a score which is between 80 and 90, let's say 84 or something, and if I run it, it is supposed to print B. So let's see whether it prints or not, and yes, it is printing B. All right, and next is, let's say, check with a test our code with a number which is less than something less than 80. Let's say I'm checking with 70, so it is supposed to print C, something like this. So if I run it, so it is printing C. So for in this way, it is giving me the correct or expected output. And this time I have used these combined conditions, like score is less than equals 90 and score is greater than 80. Okay, so this is one way of solving the problem. Now let us try to do the same thing utilizing an elif statement. So what does that mean? Instead of utilizing this combined if statement like this, what I can write is simply like this one. Let's say instead of doing this entire if score less than equals 90, which is just opposite to the score greater than 90, I can use this L, means an else. So L if, so L is taking care of the fact that score is less than equals 90 already. And after that, the remaining part of the things that I have to write it down. So here, what I can do is L if score is greater than 80, like this. So simply, now if I print B, that is going to give you the second solution for the problem. Here actually this if score is less than equals 90 and this entire thing is compressed inside this L. So this part is taking care of all these things. So let's see whether this solution is giving me the correct result or not. So let's start with all our test cases. So let's start with 100, which is greater than 90. So now for 100, this program is supposed to print A here. So let's see whether it prints A or not. Let me run this, and well, it printed A. That is the first part. Now let us test with some number between 80 and 90, and let's see whether it is coming inside this elif or not. So let me just change score from 100 to 84. And if I just run it, I can see that, well, it is printing B. That is, it successfully came inside this elif statement and printing B. So as you can see, this elif score greater than 80 is a compressed version of this entire if score less than equals 90 and score greater than 80. So this entire score less than 90 and this entire part is compressed inside this L. So that is another way of solving the problem. So instead of using combined statement, I am using elif. So, and now let's check, let's test for the third part of the program whether it is working properly or not. Let me give you some number which is less than 80, which is 70. So it is supposed to print C now, and let's see whether it prints C or not. So it is printing C. So we have seen two different way of solving this program. First, a combined if, a combined conditions, and second, just by using elif. So that is the second way of solving the problem. Now there is another third way of solving the problem. In the third way, I am going to utilize nested if else. So how can I do that? So for that, what I have to do, the first part remains same. That is, if the score is greater than 90, you are printing A. Now the second part, what I can tell the program like this, else. So whenever I am saying else in my program here, what is the meaning of this else? Here the else means it is automatically negating this score greater than 90. So that means it is taking care of the fact like score is less than equals 90. So it came inside this else statement. Now inside this else, what you need to do is you have to again check if the score is greater than 80 or not. So here it is score. So I have to write another if statement if the score is greater than 80. So at that point of time, what you can do is you can print B in here. So this is another way of saying like else means if the score is less than equals 90. Inside that else, there is another if which is taking care of the fact, well, the score is less than equals 90, but here in this if you are checking whether the score is also greater than 80. So this part is taken care of in between 80 and 90. Now, inside this 90, there can be another thing like what we have taken care of as a separate if else at that time. This time I have to put it inside this nested if else like this way. So in this, so now the meaning of the code is simply like this. First, you are checking whether the score is greater than 90, else that is score is less than equals 90. Now inside this else part, which is taking care of all the scores below 90 or below or equals or less than or equals 90, there can be two different things. The first one, score is greater than 80. At that time you have to print B. And there is another situation can arise, that is score is less than equals 90 and also the score is less than equals 80. At that time you can print C. So this is the third way of solving the problem. So here let's check with all our inputs again. So this is 100. So it is supposed to print A now because the score is more than 90. So it printed A here. Now let us test with some number in between 80 and 90. So let's say 84. And if I run it, it is supposed to print. Now this time it is less than 90 but greater than 80. So it is supposed to print B. So let's run this program and it is printing B in here. And now the third thing, let's say it is score is 70, which is less than 90. That means in this else part also it is less than 80. So at that point of time it should print C. So let's see whether it is actually printing C or not. So as you can see, it is printing C. So this is the notion of if else condition. I mean nested if else. So here two if is nested inside another else. Now here actually I would like to clarify another thing. Instead of saying this if score less than equals 80, can we write it in another different way? Well, we can. It turned out that we can write it in another different way. What is the meaning of this sentence? What is the meaning of this statement if score is less than equals 80? This is just opposite to the if statement you have written immediately before. So this is just the negation or the opposite of score greater than 80. So just write it down instead of writing this entire sentence like if score less than equals 80. Instead of writing that, you can simply replace it with another else also. So this is how you can solve the problem. So here let's write down, let's check the thing with our previous conditions, like let's say score equals 100. And so the first part 100 means it is supposed to print A, so it is printing A. Then if score is less than equals 90 but greater than 80, so let's do it with 84. So it is supposed to print B. So let's see whether it is printing B or not. Well, it printed. And the third condition, test the third condition with some number less than 80, whether it is going inside this else part or not. Let's check that. So with 70 it is supposed to print C. So if I run it, it is printing C. So as you can see, this time one if and else both are nested inside another else. So this is the notion of nested if else. One if else is inside another else condition. So this is how we can solve the same problem over here utilizing three different ways. The first one, just by using combined condition inside if. The second one, using an elif. And the third one, utilizing a nested if else.